Rama Rama Hare Hare. So this is where we ended up yesterday evening. Stay tuned. We're going to do a little mini review at the beginning of this presentation so we can be focused on the solution. And once again, this is the topic. There's respect is the cure for the disease of envy, and the disease of envy has a way of blocking the power of bhakti. So we want to get rid of that disease, and respect is the principle, is a primary means. So what we heard yesterday, a little bit of review, according to the verses that we covered in Canto 3, Chapter 29, Explanation of Devotional Service, Kapila Dev has explained that there's pure devotional service and there's that which has the power to obstruct our experience of pure devotional service, and that's envy. 4 times he repeats in differing degrees. The Lord is the unobstructed view is the Lord is in every living entity, and therefore we respect every living entity. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami, in their commentaries on these 4 verses, 21 through 23, they are describing these 4 stages of envy. Here's the 4 stages of envy. Avagya, looking down on others. Upeksha, avoiding others. Dvesha, active hatred or envy that's more intense. And then finally, criticizing others. Avamanina, or ninda, meaning essentially the same thing, criticizing others. So the teaching that we heard is, it may begin, this envy feature may begin mild, but still within the heart of a living entity. Now, here's an important teaching. The important teaching is, we've taken birth in the material world, which means we have a body, and the fact that we have a body is like a flag. It's like I have raga and dvesha within my heart, and therefore I have a body. So it's already there, to differing degrees. And this avagya is something that is common, is a disease that's common. Here's a very interesting way. We didn't see this yesterday, but this is an interesting way of summarizing these 4. So the first one, the avagya. Someone may be religious, but their worship is more of a show. That is, initially, we, practitioners of bhakti, want to practice devotional service sincerely. However, over time, the initial taste may disappear and is replaced by something external, that is, the doing externally but not acknowledging that Krishna is within the heart of every living entity, which is a major theme in the whole chapter, or a major theme of what pure devotional service includes. The second is when that envy becomes magnified, then we may practice, but it's likened to pouring ghee on ashes. There's no result. Or the practice of bhakti produces practically minimal or very little change of heart. Like in our morning class, we're reading Canto 2, Chapter 3, Pure Devotional Service, Change in Heart. So that change in heart may not be happening so quickly. And so there's fruitless efforts, not zero, but minimal. Disturbance, this is the third stage, where there's the covering has become sufficiently strong. Upeksha has now become dvesha. And the inner peace is gone. And one may feel, we're living in an unfriendly world. Our external is aggressive, and then we may feel everyone's our enemy, and no one likes us, and we're standing alone. This alienation we're going to hear going forward in time is taken directly from the verses that we're going to be hearing today. There's a nature of this impurity. Now, the purpose of this afternoon session, or the second session rather, is what's the cure? What's Kapila is going to teach us? And then when we're in the final or darkest stages, Krishna may have abandoned us, and we're vulnerable to hostility. And so we vilify those aggressors. So here comes the beginning part of Kapila's solution. The problem has been identified. The goal is also identified. The goal is pure devotional service with its characteristics we heard yesterday. And then there's a process to get to that goal. And then there's obstacles that tend to block the effectiveness of that sadhana. And now comes the cure of envy. So here we go. We're going to start. Remember, we ended 21, 22, 23, 24, and to amplify, there was verse 25. That's where we ended. Now, we're starting with 27, which means we're going to circle back and discuss 26 later. But notice the color coding in the Sanskrit of this verse 27. There's Maitri, that means making friendship with the devotees, and seeing non-difference between one living entity and another living entity, abhinena, chakshusha, and then dana and mana. So dana and mana, we're going to hear more in the purport to this verse, but here's the translation of the verse. Through charitable gifts, that's dana, and attention, mana. I mean, this is Prabhupada's translation of this verse. Attention, offering respect, mana, as one may, amanina mana dena, they're offering respect and not expecting respect in return. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's use of these terms. Mana, paying attention to someone who's in a superior position, being charitable to those who are in a lesser, being mana, or attentive to those who are peers or superiors, as well as through maitri, friendly behavior, and by viewing all to be alike. Abhinena chakshusha. One should propitiate me, who abide in all creatures as their very self. So remember, I'll remind you, the emphasis that Kapila is making in this whole description of devotional service is, along with the direct Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, deity worship is included, along with those direct, there's also this feature of that which we're not able to see, the deity we can see, but the form of the deity within the heart, that is the expansion as supersoul within the heart, we cannot see. But don't neglect, although we cannot see, because otherwise there can be offenses made, or not pleasing Krishna as a result. So here is propitiating me who abide in the heart, right in all creatures as their very self. So Krishna is advising, or Kapila Deva is advising, how he is pleased by these four things. So we'll see the four things again. Friendship, giving in gifts, dana, mana, offering respect and attention, viewing all to be alike. These four things. We're going to hear substantially about these four things going forward. Here's a part of Prabhupada's nice purport. It should not be misunderstood that because the Supersoul is dwelling within the heart of a living entity, the individual soul has become equal to him, called Mayavad. The equality of the Supersoul and the individual soul is misconceived by the impersonalist. Here, it is distinctly mentioned that the individual soul should be recognized in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The method of worshiping the individual soul is described here as either giving charitable gifts or behaving in a friendly manner, free from any separatist outlook. So what's a separatist outlook? Not seeing, seeing distinctions that separate this group from that group, or me from other people, and that's the separatist. Bina Drick. We'll hear that from verse number 26. But we're on 27. The impersonalist sometimes accepts a poor individual soul as being Daridra Narayan, meaning that Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has become poor. This is a contradiction. The Personality of Godhead is full of all opulences. He can agree to live with a poor soul or even with an animal, but that does not make him poor. Then, carrying on with the purport, there are two Sanskrit words used here, mana and dana. Mana indicates a superior. Dana indicates one who gives charitable gifts, or is compassionate towards an inferior. We cannot treat the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an inferior who is dependent on our charitable gifts. When we give charity, it is to a person who is inferior in his material or economic condition. Charity is not given to a rich man. Similarly, it is explicitly stated here that mana, respect, is offered to a superior, and charity is offered to an inferior. The living entities, according to different results of fruitive activities, may become rich or poor. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unchangeable. He is always full in six opulences. Continuing. Treating a living entity equally does not mean treating him as one would treat the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's an important concept, an important behavior. Treating others equally. Compassion and friendliness, these same dana and maitri, do not necessitate falsely elevating someone to the exalted position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should not, at the same time, misunderstand that the Supreme, situated in the heart of an animal like a hog, and the Supersoul, situated in the heart of a learned Brahmana, are different. The Supersoul in all living entities is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. By his omnipotency, he can live anywhere, and he can create his Vaikuntha situation everywhere. That is his inconceivable potency. Therefore, when Narayana is living in the heart of a hog, he does not become Hog Narayan. He is always Narayana and is unaffected by the body of a hog. Now, let's go back to the context. The context is Kapila Deva is describing obstacles and overcoming obstacles. And the envy is the obstacle. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in discussing this topic, writes that while analyzing anarthas, he says that of all, envy is the most dangerous one. We know this term anartha. Another term that's used in Canto 1, Chapter 2 is abhadra, or inauspicious conditions of heart. Anartha is very similar. Not exactly the same, but very similar meaning. So of those things that are anarthas or unwanted, envy is the most dangerous. Here's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes. Why is this so? Because envy is completely opposite to love. As long as there is envy, one cannot develop love for Krishna. They are incompatible. So we want to get rid of that envy, or the incompatible feature. We want to love, and Krishna happens to be everywhere and in everything. Therefore, loving Krishna and hating anyone or anything else is totally contradictory. So we want health. We want pure consciousness, our healthy state of consciousness. This is Rajneesh saying the same thing. Drop envy and jealousy, otherwise there's no possibility, because love cannot exist where envy and jealousies exist. Same message as being presented here. This disease of envy plunges us into the ocean of material existence. What is that? Icha dvesha samutena dvanva mohena. So we've heard that verse, or hearing it again. Bhagavad Gita verse, Krishna is saying, all living entities take birth in this material world overcome by these two things. Desire and hate. Icha dvesha. The envy plunges us into the ocean of material existence. To obtain love of God, one has to get rid of this disease of envy. It's very simple, very straightforward. Therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated, Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. Some of you may recognize that phrase. It's the second verse of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. And what does this mean? Paramo is supreme, Satam is the truthful, Nirmatsaranam is one who is 100%, 100% pure in heart. This Bhagavatam, is, the verse says, 112, this Bhagavatam is composed for those who are Nirmatsaranam Satam. Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. So, those persons who are in that condition, that's the healthy and natural and desirable condition. And the Bhagavatam is for such persons. That is, they can relish the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially because of that Nirmatsaranam, they're pure in heart. But supposing you're not pure in heart, and if you do have that pure heart, you can understand what Srimad Bhagavatam means and love Krishna. Before you all came and this class began, we spent an hour and a half with devotees in China discussing the Kaliya Leela. And a very wonderful part of the Kaliya Leela is when Krishna is in the coils of the Kaliya serpent, the transcendental love of the resident of Vrindavan goes through the ceiling. Their love intensifies and intensifies and intensifies and intensifies in ways that look like and sound like the description is a negative emotion. But it's a loving emotion being amplified and accelerated in a very wonderful way. So who can understand that? Only one who's a devotee. Paramo nirmatsaranam satam. And otherwise they're not going to understand it. So to understand Srimad Bhagavatam is to understand and love Krishna. That's where our topic is. Now here's a nice chart on the left, like a graphic. And this is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And his teaching is these of anarthas or unwanted things, there's a root cause. And the root cause is avidya. I'm going to go a little bit away from this topic, but it's the same topic, or a different way of describing this topic. Come on in. There's lots of room in the front row. Everyone likes the back row, but... Hare Krishna. Here's a lesson in Buddhism. The root cause of suffering is desire. The root cause of suffering is desire. If you want to become free from suffering, become free from desire. How do you become free from desire? Two main things. One, live a life of goodness, starting with ahimsa. Don't kill animals. Nonviolence. And other mode of goodness, characteristics of life, cleanliness, truthfulness, austerity, simplicity, etc., etc. Mode of goodness, life. Second, mindfulness or meditation, extended meditation. Not just, for 15 minutes or an hour, or for hours and days and your lifetime dedicated to mindfulness. And here's what's behind that idea. The teachings of Lord Buddha, along with the practice, is he doesn't speak against the soul. He doesn't say there is no soul. He doesn't say there is a soul. He doesn't speak about souls. He speaks about consciousness, which we understand means soul. But his explanation of consciousness, interesting, very short, it's the moment. Because the past is gone, the future hasn't happened yet. All there is the moment. Consciousness is moment to moment. So be in the moment. Be in the moment. Be in the moment. The next moment, be in the moment. Be in the moment. And practice at being in the moment. And when you become really good at being in the moment, guess what? You go beyond the moment. And what's beyond the moment? Liberation. Or nirvana. Cessation of material existence. That's it. One way to translate nirvana. Literally means no longer in the woods. Nirvana. The woods of material existence. Material existence is finished. Nirvana. That's the aspiration for the Buddhist. And what's there in the realm of nirvana? Nothing. Or nothingness. Or void. It's a void philosophy. So back to the premise. The root cause of suffering is desire. So get your dagger out and stab desire to death. And when desire is dead, then you're in this place of voidism, nothingness. You're stone. But we're not stones. We're living entities that can't be killed. And therefore, the Vaishnava teaching is, you ready? The root cause of suffering is ignorance. Ignorance covers the living entity. There's different ways, false ego, etc., 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 but ignorance. So that's what this little chart is. The root cause of material existence, the root cause of anarthas, is avidya. because material existence has unwanted things. So avidya is at the root, at the chart on the left, or the the diagram. And then the tree has its branches. Raga and Dvesha are two big ones, attraction and repulsion. And then he, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, identifies there's many other branches, but Abhinivesh, deep absorption in trivial pursuits, is one way of translating or giving a definition of Abhinivesh. And Asmita, conceited, egoistic pride. That's the tree of avidya, of unwanted things. The root is ignorance. So then the ignorance grows unwanted things, anarthas. So now we're going to have a little, like 5-7 minutes of anarthas. You ready? It's a little philosophical. Sorry. Not just story. It's just, anyway. Devotional service is naturally powerful, but there's a blocking force, which is also very powerful, which consists of anarthas. Now, one of those is envy. But it's not the only one. There's other ones. And the original anartha is ignorance. He, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his writings, indicates 16 categories of anarthas in 4 categories, or tattvas. The word tattva means truth or reality. Tattva. Like Vishnu tattva, Jiva tattva, Shakti tattva, tattva. A truth, a reality, the substance of something. It's tattva. So here we go. This is the philosophy part. Tattva vibrahma. Brahma, what does Brahma mean? Bewilderment. Brahma is very bewildered. So when there's tattva vibrahma, there's categories. There's subcategories of this one. Sva tattva. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Not understanding who we are, or the eternal nature of the soul. Sva tattva. So one may not have that one correct. And you try to live your life and be happy. You're not going to. You can live your life, but you're not going to be happy if you don't know who you are. And para tattva, the ability to understand who God is. And who is this God? The Vishnu is Vishnu tattva, or para tattva. Vishnu literally means the one who enters everywhere. You want to know the meaning? That's the meaning. The one who enters everywhere. So Vishnu is all pervasive. Is there some place where Vishnu isn't? He's everywhere. And within every atom, within every jiva, within every universe, he's everywhere. It's not some place where he's not. That's Vishnu. And supposing one doesn't understand Vishnu, that's his quality. He's everywhere. So the Lord, as he is omnipresent, all-pervading, it's a very important characteristic of Vishnu. If you want to be engaged in devotional service, who is it that you're serving? So back to those verses that we heard yesterday, supposing you're worshiping the deity. It's not to say the deity is not, but what about the living entities that also have Vishnu within their heart? And supposing you respect the deity, but you're disrespecting, by not respecting, it's a form of disrespect. You just ignore others because the deity is it. That's everything. That's a problem. It's a covering. It's an anartha. We'll still remain in ignorance if we don't realize this para tattva or Vishnu tattva. Then sadhana tattva. Supposing you don't understand how to get to what the goal is. Spiritual practice is derived from understanding the nature of the soul and God. Yes? Sambandha Gyan. We've all heard these terms. Sambandha Gyan. Knowledge of the relationship, sambandha, of all things from the source. So Vishnu is the source, and many things come, including all jivas. So there's a relationship between the jiva and the source. But if one doesn't know that, then how are you going to have proper sadhana? And sadhya means the goal. Supposing I don't have clarity about the goal. These are the four. Let's just say the names. Sva, tattva, para, tattva, sadhana tattva, and sadhya tattva. So I may be illusioned, vit brahma, about the truth of existence, like what's real with a capital R. Supposing I don't know, then that can be a problem in getting to the goal. Now there's four categories. So here's a little bit further about Tattva Vibrahma. I hope you don't mind. This is a comparison between Lord Chaitanya and Madhvacharya. You know who Madhvacharya is because he's got two fingers in the air. And he's very strong and powerful. So he taught Dvaitavad. Dvaita, Vada means doctrine, the doctrine of two-nesses. So here a little detail. It's not on the text on the screen here, but there he taught what consistently Pancha Bheda. There's two Bhedas, two differences or distinctions between God and the living entity, between the living entity and material nature, between one living entity and another living entity, one category of material nature, another category of material nature. There's another. There are differences everywhere. So Madhvacharya is one of the original acharyas to whom we trace our spiritual lineage. But his understanding is different. Well, here's rather than the detail of what the differences are, his goal in his teachings is moksha, attaining Vaikuntha. No longer involved in material, entirely involved in spiritual. However, Lord Chaitanya's teaching is the goal is not just Vaikuntha, the goal is Krishna Loka, where there's differences. But there's a oneness also. Now, there are ways of explaining this. What's in the text, you may not understand, but if you want to read it further, it's in detail in chapter 5 of Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila. These terms are nimitta and upadan, material and efficient cause. And it's a little, philosophical, so I'm not going to go into it too much because it's a little philosophical. But when you emphasize simply the differences, but there's no acknowledgement of the samenesses, then there's a difference of sadhana and a difference of sadhya. Madhvacharya, worships the deity, and he follows the vidhis of Panchachikya Vidhi for worship of the deity. But the sadhya, the goal is different. It's moksha. So this distinction, I'm not going to go into it because it's really not the major point that we're presenting, but it's an important distinction, extremely important distinction of how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu added, or not added, is within Scripture. He disclosed and emphasized a point that's within Scripture, that the source of everything is both the material and the efficient cause. And what does it mean, material cause? What does it mean, efficient cause? You can read about it so that you can understand it better. So that's Madhvacharya, and then Bhaktisiddhanta discusses the Sri Sampradaya. Maybe some of you are more familiar with the Sri Sampradaya. They have these different, this is still Tattva Vibrahma. They have they have 5 tattvas that they adhere to. The sva, that's our own intrinsic identity. That's clear. Para, swarup, similar, the Lord's identity. And the Lord's identity in their teaching is Vaikuntha, Narayana. In Vaikuntha, he is the supreme living entity. And Purushartha, swarup. So there's a goal, there's artha, something wanted, and there's Purushartha, the supreme goal, the highest goal. They have that idea also. And then there's methods of achieving that highest goal. Upaya, swarup. It's identified very clearly in Sri Sampradaya. And there are things that are obstacles to reach that goal. And if we have a misunderstanding of what the obstacles are, we're not likely to reach the goal. Because we may be doing something we think is what we're supposed to be doing, but it's something we're not supposed to be doing. Or something we're supposed to be not doing. So we need all 5. The Sri Sampradaya indicates these 5 basic truths. And their goal is also Vaikuntha, or achieving Narayana. Very important to understand what is the offense that blocks our devotional service and what the nature of aparad. So it's, the root is ignorance, and then there's branches of that ignorance. It was something that's contrary to devotional service. And he says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, or writes, that this ignorance arises from Asat Krishna. So this is the second of 4 categories. We know what Asat means. Not eternal, Asat, or temporary. And Trishna means thirst. Krishna, Trishna. It's thirst for Krishna. Trishna, thirst. And Asat Trishna is not Krishna, Trishna. Desire for something material. Or asat, unreal. If we don't understand who we are, this tattva vibrahma, we don't understand who we are, what reality is, then naturally we're going to desire something unreal. Or something temporary, limited. Naturally. It's by default. If it's not this, it's that. If it's not light, it's dark. If it's not a 1, it's a 0. It's just by default. And what are those asats? Material enjoyment, heavenly enjoyment, liberation, mystic powers. And they're all in the category of asat. These desires stand as impediments between the Supreme Lord and our goal. Or our goal and us. Then there's aparad. And the aparad is an offshoot, because we heard a little bit about aparad already, because of this Trishna for the temporary. We have a thirst for material enjoyment. We develop philosophies and practices that help us get the limited and temporary. And naturally, there's aparad. There's examples and examples. Why? Because we want to enjoy something, and someone comes in our way, and they're in our way, so we offend them. It's like children playing in a sandbox. It happens. In one child, then another child, and there's a dispute because someone got in the way of how I wanted to do it in the sandbox. And then life, it is when one gets older. Because of thirst for enjoyment, we develop an offensive attitude. When we understand that we are servants of whom? Servants of the Supreme, servants of the Lord in the heart, servants of the deity, we're servants of the Supreme Lord. This offensive attitude is completely against the spirit of enjoyment. So here, again, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur going through this list of aparads and the different subdivisions. Nama aparad, Seva aparad, Vaishnava aparad, and Jiva aparad, 4. We've heard all these. Jiva aparad, maybe you've heard last. Jiva just means offending other than a Vaishnava, just, somebody that's not a Vaishnava. Is it possible to offend somebody? Yes, it's possible. And that's one of the descriptions. Somebody may not be a Vaishnava, and I'm a worshiper of the deity, and I just ignore them because you're not a Vaishnava. That's not pure. Krishna's not pleased by that. And finally, of the four, this is the weakest position of heart. In fact, that's what it means. Hridaya means the heart, and Dor Balyam. Bala means strength, and Dor Balyam is weakness. Hridaya Dor Balyam, weakness of heart. Of the four, this is the grossest manifestations of anarthas within our heart. And there's the beginning. I have this desire to be an enjoyer. And raga or icha. And that's ignorance. And then it becomes grosser, and the grosser is an offensive attitude. And then it becomes weakness. And here he gives, you don't have to memorize all these terms, it's just to give you a picture. Just like, 30,000 feet looking, here's the landscape. Tucha Shakti. This is this attachment to trifle things. Remember the term abhinivesh? Attachment to trifling things? Here we go. It's another Sanskrit term indicating the same. Attachment to trifle things. Attachment to little ambitions. Position. Some desire. Something ridiculous in the heart. And it's possible that one can become fixated upon that, getting that little something. Like obsessive about that little something. And when you analyze the attachments, the greatest attachment we have in our heart is the offense of someone that did something to us. The retaliation. So then when that happens, there's this kutinati, the phrase it's found in Chaitanya Charitamrita a lot. One becomes a criticizer of others. You want some examples? Here's a nice example. Madhavendra Puri, who is a very important person in our disciplic line, was the first to go from the line of Madhvacharya in the direction of spontaneous devotion. And when he went in the direction of spontaneous devotion, some of his disciples, like Ishwara Puri, also imbibed that same mood of spontaneous devotion and shared it with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who became Ishwara Puri's disciple. But there was another disciple, Ramchandra Puri. And Ramchandra Puri saw and heard the behavior of Madhvacharya, and he started to criticize him, Kutinati. And Madhvacharya, hearing this criticism of his spiritual masters, he said, look, I don't want to see you again. Go anywhere you want to go. I just don't want to see your face. If I die seeing your face, everything will be ruined. Go where you like. And so he did. And he carried that Kutinati spirit with him to the next place. He just went from place to place, trying to find fault. When he found a fault, he would criticize that somebody. So one of the places that Ramchandra Puri went, eventually, he went to Puri. And when he visited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he couldn't find any offense. So one day, there were some ants crawling around on the floor in Gambhira. And Ramchandra, there's a nice painting, he's pointing to the ants. See, you're eating too much. You're eating too many sweets. The ants have come here to get those sweets. That's why there's so many ants on the floor. And looking at Mahaprabhu, just criticizing. There was no fault. He wasn't eating sweets. But somebody has a propensity, they'll find something even there's nothing. Deceitful behavior, kuti, deceit. That's one. There are different examples of kuti, kutila. Do you know who, when in Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, there's a very nice detail. When the boys and girls were young, their parents got them married. During the time that Krishna had stolen the calves and cowherd boys, the real calves and cowherd boys, Krishna had hidden them. And during that period of time, when for 1 year, the real cowherd boys and calves were elsewhere, the parents got this bright idea that the little boys should marry the little girls. Because when they grow up, they don't understand anything now about boys, girls, but they'll know who their husband and wife is. They don't have to go through that stuff, teenage stuff. They'll know who they're married to. So during that period of time, Radharani was married to Abhimanyu, who was actually Krishna. But the parents thought this is my son, Abhimanyu. So Abhimanyu married Radha. You know that. So then when she grew up, Radharani was living in the house of Abhimanyu with his mother and sister. His mother and sister became Radharani's mother-in-law and sister-in-law. And the mother was named Jatila because she had a big jat on her head, big mound of hair. And, like sadhus would sometimes have, so she had that kind. And the sister was named Kutila because she was crooked. And always finding fault with Radharani and this and that and the other thing. So she made the pastime of love between Radha and Krishna when she was so-called married to her so-called husband. Very interesting. The two, Jatila and Kutila, created obstacles for Radha meeting Krishna. And Krishna always found a way to meet Radha and Radha to meet Krishna. And there's many, 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 many wonderful pastimes describing their meeting, even when she was married to her so-called husband. It's just a Leela. Because eternally Krishna and Radha are one, not just married. But Kutila, so that's of this Hridaya Dorbalya, these are the first two. Here's another, Matsarya. This is our main topic, envy. So that's a dark condition of heart, along with attachment to trifling things and fault-finding and deceitful behavior. This envy is another dark thing. Matsarya. And Sva Pratishtata. Sva Pratishtata. So pride in oneself. Pratishta. They're the Labh, Puja, and Pratishta. The characteristics of a conditioned soul, Labha, Puja, and Pratishta, they want people to worship them. They want to acquire things, Labha, and Pratishta. They have pride. These are characteristics of conditioned souls. And so emphasis of these four, we're going to hear something more. The grossest manifestation of ignorance is envy and pride. So remember that tree that has a vidya at the bottom, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is analyzing that the darkest or the grossest form of avidya is this envy and pride. And the result of the envy and pride is one suffers. One wants enjoyment. If you remember the very, very, very beginning, yesterday evening, from the Bhagavatam and as well as from Priti Sandarbha, everyone wants to be happy. But the result is suffering. If one has these coverings, the darkest of the coverings being pride and envy. I hope you see the connection. Maybe I'm going too fast, I don't know. But I'm trying to, it's like painting a picture, and this part of the picture, and then we go over to that part of the picture, and there's a big picture. The big picture is explanation of devotional service, and the things that block it. And this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's way of explaining. Here's Jiva Goswami discussing the very same topic in his Bhakti Sandarbha, the very same topic. Remember the four categories of increasing degrees of darkness? So Jiva Goswami discusses this in Bhakti Sandarbha. And when he's discussing, he has two verses from Agni Purana that he references in this gradations of envy. And it has to do with the story of Shravan Kumar. I'm looking around the room to see if anybody's... You know who is Shravan Kumar? Yes. Oh, good. Okay, let's go to Shravan Kumar. This is from Ramayana. So Jiva Goswami goes there. He discusses the scene from Ramayana where Dasarath, being king, he had a habit and practice and a responsibility to practice his archery skill. So one time he was in the forest hunting, and he had an ability, a mystic ability, that he could fire arrows at a target without seeing the target, just by sound alone. So one day, he heard a sound of someone drinking water. He thought it was an animal, so he shot an arrow at where the sound came from. And when he shot the arrow and hit the animal, it wasn't an animal. It was a young man. It was a human cry. So Dasarath felt, oh, and ran quickly to the spot, and he found Shravan Kumar with an arrow in his chest, mortally wounded. He's still partially alive, and he sang to the king, please take care of my old and blind parents. I came to bring them water, and they depend on me as their only support. Oh gosh, so Dasarath is a magnanimous person. So he picked up the young boy with the little bit of life left in him and carried him, because the young boy was able to describe how to find where his parents were to bring them water. So he carried the young boy to where his parents were, and he placed the body of the young boy dying in his father's lap. And then Dasarath explained everything that had happened. And then, you know the Ramayana story, the father was deeply hurt, and besides blind, and he cursed the king. As I die from separation from my son, you too will die in the same way. And so it was, based upon the curse of this elderly, blind father of Shravan Kumar. Now, what's not in Valmiki Ramayana is found in Agni Purana, which Jiva Goswami makes reference to. Then in Agni Purana it says the father was then considering, because the father was learned, and he knew that things don't happen without a cause. So he was asking himself, why has this happened? Why has this misfortune come to me? And that's what Bhakti Sandarbha is discussing, exactly on this point of envy. Here's the two considerations from Agni Purana. Here's the Sanskrit directly. Perhaps I once saw the deity of the Lord and thought of it as stone. Shila Bhuti, right in the Sanskrit of Agni Purana, considering it merely a well-decorated stone. This is a serious offense, as the Lord can manifest anywhere. That may have been the cause. I saw the deity as if stoned, which is a serious. By offending the deity, this misfortune came to me. Then another, straight from Agni Purana. Perhaps a Vaishnav once came before me, decorated by signs of Vishnu, Bhakti, Tilak, etc. And at that moment, I did not pay obeisances in my mind and respect him properly. Here's the reference. Jiva Goswami is bringing this reference because I didn't respect him properly. Not respecting properly is disrespect. Say it the other way. Proper respect nullifies disrespect. It counteracts envy, which is a product of disrespect is a product of that envy. So properly respect. And then what's that proper and what's respect? Those are good questions. What's proper and what really is respect? But the main point is, from Jiva Goswami's writings in Bhakti Sandarbha, the father of Shravan Kumar felt this may very well be the reason why this misfortune came to me. So supposing in our lives some misfortune comes to us. I mean, sometimes, not always, but sometimes misfortune comes to us. And we may not have a clue as to the cause, but there can be a cause. Likely there's a cause. And there are two things. This is an important teaching. According to Bhakti Sandarbha, according to the teachings of our scriptures, even shadow bhakti, abhas bhakti, has the power to nullify prarabdha karma. So sometimes if misfortune comes, devotees may say, it's just my karma. But that's not correct. Because even abhas bhakti has the power to nullify prarabdha karma. What's prarabdha karma? That you have to go into nectar devotion a little bit, but karma that's manifesting now, like in the moment. Abhas bhakti has the power to nullify. The root, the impetus to do that same thing again isn't nullified. Shuddha bhakti can nullify the very root, but prarabdha karma, no. But there may be another cause besides prarabdha karma or karma. It can be offense. And that's what the father of Shravan Kumar was contemplating. Maybe this offense, maybe that offense, because offense doesn't, it's a stain that doesn't go away very easily. So beware of offense. There was these 4 categories of offense. So beware, because it's real stuff. And there's consequences by not knowing and doing. It's a lighter offense if supposing someone just doesn't know better and they do something. It's not the same as if you know better and you do that something. Still, like Prabhupada's example, constant example, fire burns. It's not that fire will consider, here's a little child, they don't know that fire burns, and they touch the fire. The fire doesn't consider, oh, he's just a little child, I won't burn him. Fire burns. So contacting that is offense burns. It's just a law of nature. There's lighter, yes. There's heavier, yes. But it's serious business. So, even in one's mind, here in this case, the offense he's considering, in my mind, I did not properly offer respect to a Vaishnav. And how do I know? He had Vaishnav tilak. and whatever are the other signs of a Vaishnava, he had the signs of a Vaishnava. And I didn't, in my mind at that moment, pay respects. So this misfortune came to me. Now, anarthas arising from offense are very serious matters. And here's taking that same topic, expressing it another way, but a little further. Here's a nice painting of a devotee worshiping a deity. God appears in front of us in two forms, a deity and a devotee. If someone is trying to serve God, we should treat him on the same level as God, not as God, but with respect. So this Agni Purana reference, Jiva Goswami, that's his explicit Bhakti Sandarbha commentary. Supposing, so saying in his mind, supposing you pass in front of a Vishnu temple or a Krishna temple, you may not go inside and offer your obeisances to the deity, but in your mind that respect should go. And it's cultural, yes, but it's a principle more than just a cultural point. Here's another verse from Mahabharata. Here's the Sanskrit. The pure same point. The pure person who does not disturb others, just as a father is compassionate to his son, quickly gains the mercy of the Lord. So, does not disturb others. This is Maitri. Back to the verse number 27. Acting in a friendly way towards others as opposed to a disturbing way towards others. So as a father has affection for his son, as a little boy may be, who knows, be a little in a disturbed condition because his father didn't give him a lollipop or something, I don't know. And he wanted a lollipop, and he said no, you hid it behind his back. And he says, oh, I'm displeased with you. I want the lollipop. So aside from those little things, because the father may not want the son to have the lollipop for whatever the reason. So it's not those little, but in a general sense, the loving father wants to not cause disturbance for others. And as a father feels that way, one who is acting that way towards others quickly gains the mercy of the Lord. So Jiva Goswami has saying these two things. Kapila is saying the same thing. We're going to circle back to 25. We want 21, 22, 23, 24. In a different way, it's said in verse 25. Don't disturb others. These two things. Compassion, like a father towards a son. And one of the things that fathers do with sons is they feed them and take care of them. So towards others, compassion. This is dana, and then mana, being respectful to others. Be very careful with your speech. Be gentle and well behaved. This is, a very simple principle. So now we're going to more explicitly dive into these 25 through 27 verses. Here's 25. In 4 verses, he's saying worship without respecting living entities who have the Lord in their heart. That's pretense. But now in verse 25, immediately after those 4, he is encouraging deity worship. Performing his prescribed duties, one should worship the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead until one realizes my presence in his own heart and in the hearts of other living entities as well. Interesting? How long are you going to have to do your deity worship until you come to the state of worshiping the deity. The deity is in your heart and in the hearts of others. Until that comes, worship the deity. This it indicates the limits of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. But it takes one to what bhakti really is. When bhakti really is Vishnu is everywhere. You're going to be a Vishnu Bhakta, he's everywhere. Where isn't he? So act accordingly. Kapila's solution. For 4 verses, repeating. There's no use of worshiping the deity without respecting others. Here, he tells us to worship the deity. Some people may think this happened in, I forget where it was. Someplace. Anyway, someone was going to the temple on a regular basis. I think it was central New Jersey. Someone was going to the temple on a regular basis. He said this to me privately. For the past 6 months, I've been feeling the importance of deity worship to help me move from the Kanishta to the Madhyama position. Because previously he had a different practice and a different teacher and different teachings. And now he has this affinity for bhakti. And with this affinity for bhakti, he felt this is an important step. So every day, and before work, he'd go to the temple, see the deity, and offer his respect to the deities. But then after hearing these 4 verses, he thought, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. So some people may think I should stop deity worship because it's useless. That's not right. Other people may think, Devarshi Bhutapta Nirnam Patrinam, you know the verse. One who is engaged, I need some water. One who is engaged, oh, it's right here. Okay. Wait, it's a lot of water. Okay. One who is engaged in worshipping of Krishna no longer needs to worship the devas, the bhutas, and the pitris because they're engaged in devotional service. So someone may, another wrong idea is I can give up my other duties, just worship the deity. Both ideas are not the right idea. Here's the right idea. Deity worship while doing svakarma krit. Sva karma krit, my occupational duty. Svakarma krit. Krit, you perform your prescribed duty. And always think of Krishna. In conjunction with your deity worship. And in this way, it can help one come to the position of understanding Krishna is in the hearts of all living entities. That's Kapila's teaching, verse 25 of this chapter. Very important. Limits of Vaidhi Bhakti, and it's so that we can see Krishna in the hearts of all living entities. As the yogi, Dhyan yogi or Ashtanga yogi is focused in that way through their practice. So our sadhana bhakti practice is similar. One should do regulated devotional service to the stage where we can really see the Lord within the heart, at least notionally and then experientially. Vishnu is everywhere. Now, what does it mean to perform a duty? Now, this opens the door for a whole other range of topics, but Varnashram Dharma. So Vedic culture, that direct Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam, our direct activities of bhakti are enhanced, they're not dependent upon, but enhanced by the preliminary Varnashram Dharma. And that Varnashram Dharma has very important elements. Respect to parents, respect to elders. Following rules of Varnashram Dharma. Later on, we're going to have this whole discussion about form and essence. So there can be form, the rules of what to do, what not to do. Learn how to respect others. Respect is a very important part of Vedic culture. Vedic culture is a supportive culture of devotion. It's not devotion. It is in itself, in and of itself. Daivi Varnashram is, but Varnashram is just the social structure. Daivi Varnashram is where Krishna is at the center, and the social behaviors and norms and rules are towards the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna or the Supreme Lord. Before our heart is clean, we should follow the supportive Vedic culture. Now, the supportive Vedic culture has been flattened. That is to say, what you see on the screen here is not common in our modern world. It's still there, to a lesser degree. In some cases, in many cases, it's flattened, unfortunately. But one of the we'll spend more time in a later discussion, later topic of respecting elders and what that role does that have in bhakti. So there's this inner culture. Now, text 26. We're skipping around a little bit. We went 27, then 25, now here's 26. But there's a purpose for all of this. You'll see in the Sanskrit, notice in the third line, bina, drisha, or drisho. And then mrityur. It's right in the translation. And then odaram. And odaram, the word for word in Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta text of this chapter 30 to 29, canto 3, is body. But the literal meaning of odaram is belly. You know, the verse in Upanisha Amrita, there are 6 pushings. Vajo Vegam, Udarapasta Vegam, the belly, the tongue, the belly, the genital. Those are the first 3 in that list of nectar of instruction. The point is, you'll hear this again. Thank you. Udaram. You'll hear the word several times, so get used to it. Verse 26. Here's the translation, English. As the blazing fire of death I cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of a differential outlook. This is his bina drisha. We'll explain. This is an inner culture. Prabhupada has given a literal translation. Udaram literally means stomach. So, taking that literal meaning, we differentiate between our stomachs and other stomachs. My stomach is better, is more important than yours. That I give stuff to my stomach is more important than charity to others that may also need something for their stomach. No, commonly, at least how the training that I have heard, Prabhupada explained in the Varnashram system, there are 3 ashrams that are to be maintained by one ashram. The grahastas are to have employment because they have families. And then the brahmachari, the sannyasi, and the vanaprastha are eligible for receiving charity or are to be maintained. by the grihastas. That's the system, the social structure. But supposing I'm a grihasta and I don't give charity to others, I'm valuing my stomach more than others. So therefore, charity must be dana. Same. That's verse 27. Now we're going back to 26. I will come to you as blazing fear and terrible death. Right in the verse 26. So two basic elements. Feed others like yourself. Respect everyone, and especially senior persons. The Binadrisha, we'll hear more. How to cure the envy of our heart. Remember, this whole session is Kapila Dev's remedy for the problems of the obstacles in the heart. How to follow the supportive culture that helps cultivate devotion. Simple things. Feed others and respect everyone. So there's an elderly fellow, and he's feeding this young boy. And then the elders, the other persons assembled are respecting the elderly person. So it's just, that's culture. The culture of curing the heart of envy. It's a varnashram principle, but it feeds into the bhakti principle. Main problem, once again, those two branches, raga and dvesha, attachment and hatred. Attachment or attachment inversion. We're attached to our enjoyment. We have hatred to all impediments to our enjoyment. Hatred to competitors or those that block our enjoyment. So the Vedic culture gives us the cure, these two things. The cure for raga, focusing on the charity part, or specifically even the eating part, because everyone has to eat. The cure is to feed others before feeding ourselves. In Vedic culture, my understanding is, it's one of the things that wives do. They make sure that their family is fed before they eat. It doesn't have to be everyone can sit at the table and they have their meal together, but it's the mood that others are to be fed first. And when one lives that way, like here's a for example. Supposing in a temple there's cooks, or in any function, not just a temple, there's a gathering. Like we just had this, 3.5 day thing in Naperville, and there's a cooking department. They call themselves Govindas. They just do catering for things. They took care of all the cooking. And they made sure everyone had sumptuous, and then they sat down and had. And guess what they felt? Satisfied. Not only the people liked it, they were satisfied by people liked it, but they took last. And that was just fine. They didn't cook and then go eat and then serve out the prasadam. They didn't even serve out the prasadam. Someone else served out the prasadam. They did the cooking. It's just a principle. And it's a principle that fosters love. Or it's an antidote for raga. Happiness comes. Just like feeding others after cooking. Then you take. Our material raga is controlled by feeding others first. We put our stomach before others, then raga increases. So it's not just feeding poor people. That's a nice thing, but it's not. The consciousness is more than just the charity feature. You're a well-to-do person, so you give a donation to a charitable organization that feeds people that don't have. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's incomplete. It stays on the material platform, and there's a way to move it beyond the material platform. It's the cultivation. Let me do that which enhances bhakti and causes cure for raga, and then cure for dvesha, respect of others, behave in a humble and gentle manner. In Vedic culture, I'm going to spin out a little bit. Is there anybody in the room that doesn't speak Hindi? You all speak Hindi? Anyone that doesn't speak Hindi? You all speak Hindi. You don't speak Hindi? Oh, okay. You understand. Okay, I don't. I don't do either. But I'm bringing up a point that's Hindi related, and then we'll go Sanskrit related, because it's the same point. In Vedic culture, the husband and wife address each other in a plural way. There's Hindi language that's plural. There's Hindi language that's singular. And in a plural way, here's an example at the bottom. In Hindi, aap is used instead of tum. And one is plural, and it's respectful, as opposed to one that is less respectful, like you might address a younger person. There's an older person, and there's some, everyone's attention is on little kids because they're little kids. But there's the older person. So the older person is addressed in one way, the younger person is addressed in another way because of their position, elder, younger, superior. So at least I'm not, I don't speak Hindi, and I'm not part of a Vedic marriage, but at least in tradition, the husband and wife address each other in this plural way as a sign of respect. So even if they have some disagreement, that helps keep the disagreement from becoming escalated. And, worse is, some hatred or violence, or, the heavier degrees of envy. If we want to get rid of envy within our heart, there are two things to remember: welcome and feed others and respect others. Here's a little example from the Hindi version of Mahabharata. Now, if you've read the Hindi version of Mahabharata, then you relate to this. I'll give you the Sanskrit version of Mahabharata that says the same thing. Yudhisthira was grievously wounded by Karna's arrows, and he returned to his camp feeling deeply humiliated. After some time, Krishna and Arjuna came to see him. Yudhisthira initially assumed that Arjuna had come with the good news of Karna's death. However, when he found out that Karna wasn't dead, he became angry. And one of the insults that Yudhisthira spoke to Arjuna is that he should give up his Gandiva bow to someone more capable of using it. Arjuna became enraged and prepared to kill Maharaj Yudhisthira. Now, one of the classes towards the end of this whole visit is going to be details and more details on this exchange. But it's from Karna Parva of Mahabharata. So Maharaj Yudhisthira said like this, and Arjuna became irate because he had taken a vow: if anyone speaks badly about my military skill, and specifically that I don't deserve having Gandiva, I'm going to kill them. I've taken a vow. At that moment, Krishna restrained Arjuna and narrated a profound teaching on when vows should be upheld and how truth should be applied with wisdom. So he said, you've made a vow, uphold your vow. But you can't kill Yudhisthira. But here's what you can do. You can insult him. Because for one who has once been honored, dishonor is worse than death. You've heard that one before. So go and insult him. And that way you can maintain your vow, but without killing him. But you've killed him. So that's what he did. And he said some really heavy things. And when Krishna specifically instructed Arjuna to address him as tu instead of ap, because that's a disrespect. And then he said many other things that were disrespectful. And then after you finish, you go fall at his feet and beg forgiveness. So that's in the Hindi translation. The English translation just speaks of, rather than speaking to him as your honor, just call him you. So that's English. Here's the Sanskrit version, and there's details. If you're interested in the details, these are particular verses from the Sanskrit version of Mahabharata. Yudhisthira, O great king, does not deserve to be slain, nor, O Partha, can your vow be destroyed. Therefore, insult him in this manner by a light act alone. For honor of the virtuous, while living is dearer than life itself, he whose honor remains is said to live. By dishonor, one is said to die. There's no doubt about this. This king has always been worthy of honor, and by you especially, address him as Tvam, Sanskrit, O mighty armed one, and know him thereby to be slain. That's the Sanskrit. Then there's the English, and then there's the Hindi, but you get the idea. So this Tvam is singular or familiar or inferior. So after insulting Yudhisthira, Arjuna felt terrible. He wanted to kill himself. But Krishna said, no, you can't kill yourself. What are you doing? This is against Dharma and this and that. You want to kill yourself? Go praise yourself. That's killing yourself. So he did. And after he did, he felt terrible. Krishna had to restrain him. Anyway, there's more. We'll do this another time. So again, verse 26. Emphasis on mana and dana. Mana, respect elders. Dana, give charity and food. We still give food to the elders, superiors too, so we don't just feed the less fortunate. Back to verse 27. Therefore, through charitable gifts and attention, dana and mana, as well as through friendly behavior, maitri, and by viewing all to be alike, one should propitiate me who abides in all creatures as their very self. So up top, this is a conventional manifestation of honoring an elder, helping a little old lady cross the street. But, one can do that just out of courtesy, and one can do that with a sense of honoring the Supreme Lord who's within the heart. And then there's teachings, we're going to hear that tomorrow, about what comes from this root of respecting elders. And if many elders have wisdom, and if you offer respect to an elder, they'll be very happy and naturally to offer wisdom, especially if you inquire. But even if you don't inquire, they may offer wisdom in so many ways, or blessings. We'll hear some more about that. But it's a culture of respect. And it brings good fortune to the one who's respecting and happiness to the one who's being respected. More on verse 27. The verse 27 begins with ataha, which means therefore. So it's a summary of 7 prior verses. Arhayad. You have to worship me. How to worship him. Dana manabhyam. Don't discriminate between yourself and others. Look with equal vision. Don't be a separatist. Don't be an egotist. Don't be the center of the universe. Develop a different approach to living entities than more on the first of the two. Give food to everyone and give some gifts. It's amazing how people are pleased when you give them something. Unexpected. Give them something. In a genuine way. I'm going to tell a little story. It's a memorable story. Some years, something like 20 years ago. I don't know how old the little girl is, but I flew all the way from the U.S. to Singapore to visit some devotees that were at that time students at the University of Singapore, NUS, National University of Singapore. So when I got there, it was a long flight, and I was exhausted. But it was, the flight arrived at like 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and it was like, phew. So they brought my luggage into the room where I was staying and took a shower and was putting on my dhoti, and without even a knock on the door, this little girl, maybe 4 years old, just barged in the room while I was putting on my dhoti. And she wanted to give me a gift. And the gift, so the mood shifted to her enthusiasm, and the gift was a string of beads that were plastic beads of different colors and different sizes strung together. She couldn't wait. This is like 3 o'clock in the morning. She stayed up all night to bring this gift. And it was so many years ago and such an insignificant thing, but it's still in my mind. And I don't know where the girl is now. She's probably in college or out of college and married and who knows what. But that impression was certainly significant for me, and probably significant for her. Maybe not. I don't know. But it's a gesture. The giving of a gift is a gesture that makes an impact. It can be it doesn't have to be something big, 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 big. If one has the capacity, big is fine. If it doesn't have the capacity, depending on circumstance, whatever it is. And it's part of Vedic culture. It's like coming for the deity and you bring a gift. Or you have exchange with others and you have it's culture. Dana. Sometimes we give some fruit to a completely unknown person. The reaction is amazing. They don't need the fruit, but they receive something from you or from another person. There's just there's no price to it. There's no reason for it. It's a gift, and it can be insignificant, a piece of fruit. Maitri, develop a friendly spirit. Don't see others as competitors. There's a very nice story. You're going to hear a very nice story of someone that I'll tell you the nice story later. In some places in India, there's this natural kind of friendliness between persons. Although in the West, it's rare that people even say hello. There's a nice example. There's a separate slide for this, but when Prabhupada had ill health from his travel across the sea, and then later he had a third heart attack, and the doctor that treated him said, Swamiji, you're going to have to exercise at least an hour every day, and if you don't, you're not going to survive the fourth. So from that point on, Prabhupada went for morning walk, as busy as he was, for 1 hour every day. Generally, he liked going to parks. He liked an atmosphere that's different and pristine. And so devotees that know their area, they would take him to this, that, and the other park. And then Prabhupada would be very entertaining and charming when going through different parks. I have some nice experience of Prabhupada stories with visiting different parks. And one time he was in London. So there was no nearby park, so he just was on the street of London. And as he was walking down the street, he wouldn't say Hare Krishna to people. I mean, they were noticing him, elderly sadhu, walking down the street in a dhoti and tilak. And Prabhupada would say, hello, good morning. So the devotees asked Prabhupada later, why is it you were saying hello, good morning instead of Hare Krishna? And Prabhupada said, because if he said Hare Krishna, people would think he was a sectarian fellow. But if they say, I say hello, good morning, they'll say hello, good morning, and then by their reciprocating, their devotional service has begun. Nice. He was just interested in not proselytizing, he was interested in engaging people in devotional service in a practical way. And that was a practical way. I like that story. And this is Vaishnava culture. Respect everyone. Feed everyone. Be friendly and courteous to everyone. This is a painting from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm going to tell the story, and I think I have to end because of time. It's already 20 minutes before 9. And I haven't ended, but I'm going to end. The painting is depicting a scene from Chaitanya Charitamrita where Shivananda Sain, who was like a village elder in West Bengal, in Mayapur, every year the 350 devotees would go from West Bengal by foot down to Puri. It would take like a couple of weeks by foot. And along the way, Shivananda Sain took care of toll crossings because there were different kingdoms and different Muslim rulers because they were ruling over India at that time. They'd pay taxes and risky and tolls and meals and accommodation. You know, for 350 people every day, something new place. That's major. So one of the things he did is he fed everybody. Doesn't say how he did it, but he did it. And one time there was a stray dog, as happens in India sometimes, and the stray dog started tagging along with the group of devotees. And so Shivananda Sain fed the dog as like part of the party. And then every day he wanted to feed the dog. So he was like one of the things he looked after. And one day the dog was missing. So according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, he sent 10 men looking in different directions to find the dog. They couldn't find him. So he felt badly. And when he made it to Puri, one of the first things he did is he went to find Lord Chaitanya and offer his respects to Lord Chaitanya. And when he was offering his respects to Lord Chaitanya, he saw the dog. And not only saw the dog, but he saw what you see in the painting. He saw the dog was being commanded by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to chant Krishna's name. And so the dog chanted Krishna's name. Krishna! And then Lord Chaitanya threw him some coconut pulp. And you see, there's the coconut pulp is in the dog's mouth, and he's chewing the coconut pulp. And over on the far right side of the painting is Shivananda Sain, who, seeing this whole scene, paid his obeisances to the dog. How fortunate is this dog? He's getting the remnants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from his own hand. That's respect. And it started with just respect of the dog. And because Shivananda Sain's compassion to the dog, he got Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Wow. So who knows? By being compassionate and friendly to everyone. God is present in everyone's heart. In this way, we be able to see him and relate to him in a loving mood. Jumping over this sort of attitude, one will not be able to develop love of God. So that's the negative. The positive is respect of the presence of the Supreme Personality of God in the heart of every living entity. Of course, there may very well be some boundaries of what we do and what we don't do and how we do it and so all those things. But it's a principle. Now, I'm concerned about time because it's now 17 minutes before 9. So although I'm not done, I'm done. And when we have our next presentation, we'll start where we left off. Sorry for the abrupt ending, but I've been going since 5:30. And I'm feeling okay, but I think, we need to end. And let's see if there's some discussion. Any comments or questions or reflections or something you'd like to share?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Today's class, it was very lot of serious thoughts that I was thinking about it, which when you talked about all that aparat that we come across unknowingly, especially with the Shravana Kumar story that you shared. I was just thinking about it, even though King Dashrath knew he did unknowingly and went and begged for the forgiveness, but still he got the curse, and that worked on him also. So that all like this, we are learning a lot of things from this story, kind of in our process of sadhana bhakti. Unknowingly we do a lot of aparat and mistakes, so that's kind of little scary to know, but also it's a learning. It's an eye-opening and lot of learning for me, how to give that respect, and also the first class started with just to worship the deity but ignoring others is a strong point that just went into my mind from the first class. And today also you touched that point, and then in one of the slides you mentioned that but still you have to do the deity worship until we realize that.
That's a heavy point too.
Yeah, it's like the.
Okay, so rather than review everything I spoke, what's your question?
So it says until we realize that we should not
do Vaidhi
ignore
Sadhana
the
Bhakti
others.
until you reach the fruit of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti.
So we still make, within that period of time frame, it's been a lot of years, we may not realize, so we'll make an offense unknowingly, which is kind of little scary. That is one of the question.
What's that? What's the question?
So how do we...
You're making a statement. What's the question?
How do we avoid that unknowing thing?
How do you avoid a knowing? By knowing. And then consciously move. Hang on. We have tendencies, and then there's moving towards knowingly doing something other than those tendencies. The tendency is the darker side. And knowingly move towards. And then we can't do it on our own. We need mercy. Then comes the blessings of superiors. So those two things. Knowingly moving, but on my own I can't do. I'm a conditioned soul. But I can try. I don't lay back and say, Kesara Sara. I try. But I'm limited. And then I seek blessings. And that's one of this thing of respecting superiors. We'll hear. Just stay tuned. You'll hear.
Sure.
How by getting blessings, one can be protected from such tendencies.
Okay. And one more question. You said since our Vaishnava ethic is like, even though we see a lot of temples, especially in India, when we are going to one place, so we come across a lot of temples on our way. So even though we don't go inside, as you mentioned in the slide, that we pray from outside. But my question is, it's not only the Vishnu temples. We come across other deities also, especially in South India, like Lord Ganesh, Lord
Yeah.
Muruga, and all that, like Shakti, and
It
so.
depends.
So, but still, we can, as a Vaishnava, we can
Yes.
respect them
Yes.
from through our mind, right?
Yes.
Instead of ignoring them.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
I mean, here's an example. One example. Because it's part of a Leela, but when Lord Chaitanya got in the vicinity of Puri and the horizon, they could see the dome of the temple in Puri. There's a bridge that crosses over a tributary of a river. And it's a bridge that has 30 arches. It has a name for the bridge. He stopped there and he crossed the river. He handed his danda to Nityananda because he wanted to offer his respects at a temple of Lord Shiva, Kapiteshwara Mahadev temple. And then when he came back, his danda was broken. So, but as an example, he went to visit and offer his respects. This is Lord Chaitanya in the presence of his followers. There's other examples. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. I was just contemplating on deity worship. So when we do deity worship at the temple, after offering every paraphernalia, we also offer paraphernalia to the devotees. Is that the idea behind that serving the Lord within the hearts of the devotees?
Yes, but there's other purposes that accomplished at the same time. It's prasad. In different ways. The flower, the fire, prasad. The water.
Second, can I ask
Yes,
another?
sure.
So Mataji was asking about other gods offering respects. I was also thinking, like, when we are respecting superiors, so these are gods are definitely superior.
Yes,
And
yes.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. So when the teaching is, don't put the demigods in the same level, but that doesn't mean don't respect. We respect even an answer, what to speak of others, exalted persons, but we respect them. But what form does that respect take? It's not the same as worshipping of Vishnu deity, but respect in different ways. And we place obviously we place more emphasis on Krishna temple or a Vishnu Murti temple. Naturally so. We're Vishnu Bhaktas. But at the same time, don't disrespect.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. One of the way to overcome raga is to serve food to others before we have it. You said something like, if you pay to some charitable trust where they serve food, does that overcome our raga, Guruji?
Yeah, it's a principle.
Okay.
And but there's many ways besides what you described. There's many ways. It's just a charitable gift. Okay. But food is one charitable gift. So it's not the only. That's just like this little girl and her string of beads. It's a gift that touches the heart of someone. And There are cultural ways of doing this. There's conventional and cultural ways of doing this.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. Okay. Anything over here? No? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. You want to add something?
Maharaj, I have another small question. Like I was, when you were describing yesterday that we should be seeing the Lord in everyone's heart.
Mm.
So the Lord is there in the snake, the Lord
Yes.
is in the tiger, the
Yes.
Lord is in our child, husband. They are at different levels.
Yes.
And
We'll touch on the different levels. And there are different ways according to the level. But you know, what's the level? There's the outer, and then there's the inner. The inner, the main differential is consciousness, levels of consciousness. But it's in this chapter 29. It's towards the end of chapter 29, so it's towards the end of this whole discussion. Levels, appropriate to the level, commensurate to the level. Not only the form, but the principle. Okay.